Niners, baby, suck again. I'm extremely irritated for the third week in a row. I can't remember the last time we've lost 3 in a row. Was it the 2020 ridiculous COVID injured season? Probably. I never really felt confident in this game, even leading up to it. Just the way that they had been playing the past 2 weeks and the unsure nature of if Purdy's playing, if Sam Darnold's playing, and then realizing that the Bengals are coming in here and they're starting to feel themselves again, starting to get their groove back. And as you can see, Joe Burrow had a day, Joe Mixon had a day. Our defense in moments played better, but still got exposed, and a lot of it was scheme and play calling. And at this point, I am firmly not a believer in Wilks as our D coordinator. I'm just not. There's times where zone is called and where man should have been there. There's times there's blitzes called where they don't need to be. Clearly, we talked about that last week. People just look uncomfortable and out of position, and clearly people are seeing things on film to pick apart our defense and move the ball on third down, of which the Bengals were only 3 of 8 on third down today, but when they had to move the ball, they did. They still had 29 first downs. The Bengals, 17 through the air, 10 on the ground, and they controlled the pace of the game. They had the ball for longer. They ran more plays. They had their way with us. We technically had more yards passing than them, but you would never know it by the way Joe Burrow played today. He only threw 4 incompletions. He looked amazing. 28 of 32 for 283 yards and 3 touchdowns. Mixon had 87 yards and a tutty. Jamar Chase had 100 yards and a touchdown. So I've talked about the defense being hot garbage. We didn't talk about Dre Greenlaw looking lost in pass coverage today. Did anybody else notice that but me? Isaiah Oliver stepped up and made some really good plays, but then he also looked lost out there in certain key plays too. Every single week, Mooney Ward is getting pass interference calls, multiple calls on him. When is enough on that front? Like, stop it. The crazy thing was, until very, 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 very late into the fourth quarter, that was the first time the Bengals had a penalty called on them all day. I've said it all year long. The refs have to be better and call a more fair game, because more times often than not in a lot of NFL games this year, in particularly, the penalties are very lopsided, and certain teams just skate by with 1 or 0 penalties, and I'm just like, how is this a thing? And then the other team does the exact same thing and they get the flag. So I'm just like, okay, sir. The next thing we really need to address is the injuries for the 49ers and how much that impacts the game plan and then the actual way the game is executed, because they were getting pressure on Brock Purdy all day long from the absence of Trent Williams. Now, Jalen Moore stepped in last week and did a phenomenal job, and it was like standing ovation. Like, my good sir, thank you. I appreciate you. This week, absolutely hot garbage. Hendrickson was in Purdy's face every single play, it felt like, wrecking havoc, making him step up and run away if he could. I mean, the next thing I'm about to tell you is just the most wild thing if you didn't watch the game, if you haven't looked at the box score. But Brock Purdy was our leading rusher today. You could have bet me $1 million that Brock Purdy, you could have bet me $1 trillion that Brock Purdy would have been the leading rusher for the 49ers today over CMC. And I would have took that bet, and I would be internally in debt. There's no way. There's no way a logical human would take that bet. But Brock Purdy, 6 carries for 57 yards. And those were all scrambles, and they were smart runs. And I was like, wow, look at this guy. Look at this dude scoop. Who would have known? Now, McCaffrey had 12 carries for 54 yards and a tutty. 17 straight games with a touchdown. He actually had 1 receiving and 1 on the ground. Once again, our only 2 scores. But we still technically only had 17 designed runs. The Brock Purdy scrambles were not designed, and he was our leading rusher. Now, I don't like that because that's away from our team identity. We run the ball. We play good defense. We control the pace of the game. We win. What's happened these past 3 weeks? Running the ball is not a thing. Not existent. And then we put more pressure on a quarterback that just played, his 17th game ever? So now he's played a full season. More pressure than he needs. More pressure than any young quarterback needs. Because he's expected to sit back there in an offense that's built to run and a defense that's not working right now. The defense is completely broken. I don't understand it, but they're broken to a degree. So then you put more pressure on this kid. And a lot of the throws, Brock Purdy throws, are high-level throws. They're high IQ throws. They're really good. There was about 4 today that I checked off today that were questionable. And 2 of those 4, he had pressure barreling down on him. He was getting hit as he threw. 1, he was bailed out by the refs, thankfully. At the end of the game, would have been a pick, but he was getting hit. So, and it was actually a penalty. So just Men in Black, erase that from your mind. Now the 2 interceptions, the other 2. When he threw his first interception inside the Bengals red zone, inside the 10, maybe it was inside the 5 actually. He's running and just needed to flip it to Elijah Mitchell, who has been playing. JP Mason, I don't know where he's been. Whatever. Flips it, tries to flip it to Elijah Mitchell, and the linebacker just steps in front of him, tips it to himself, interception. Now, I don't know if Purdy misread the situation or if the linebacker got there quicker, made a better beat on the ball than what he thought it would be. Nevertheless, it was a pick, and it's a bad pick because it's a pick inside the red zone. I feel like it was a better defensive play than a big-time mistake on Purdy's part, but it was a mistake nevertheless. It's a tick in your interception category, so RIP. The next interception that Purdy threw on the very next pass that they were out there, he threw a bad pick. It was not a good interception at all. That was just like, that's not the one you should have threw. You had other people open. You could have checked it down. Like, he was just trying to do too much, and that's not an excuse. It just is what it is. Like, he can't do that. Can't do that. Say all that to say this: if Trent Williams is in that game, and you can if and or but this whole game, it's whatever. If Trent Williams is in that game, Burrow's not getting all that pressure off the edge on the left side. It's just not happening. So Purdy has more time to throw in the pocket, which he needed at times. Or Trent Williams is not allowing all that pressure off the edge. No way. McCaffrey's probably going to have more yards because we can run behind Trent. Trent Williams is a big freaking deal. Clearly, we need more O-line depth because Burrow was not blocking a soul on the left side. Jalen Moore has to be better if Trent misses time, or we're just not that team. It's just not our year if that's the case. Debo being out is a really big deal. And I know people love to look at Ayuk and be like, he's a great route runner and he's getting open and blah, blah, blah. Ayuk is a great route runner and he does get open. He has a dropping of the pass problem, which is absolutely ridiculous. Kittle dropped the pass down there in the red zone too, but that's a rarity. Ayuk, I swear to you, every single game drops 1 or 2 clutch passes. As all the yards Purdy had today and all the yards Ayuk had 109. He probably could have had more, around 150 if you just catch the pass. Same thing for the Browns game. Brock Purdy steps into a throw, gets smashed, hits Ayuk in the hands, 40 yards down the field, and Ayuk drops it. Game-changing drop because that would have been a touchdown pass. Ayuk has a dropping problem. One of the best Brock Purdy plays since he's came into the league last year, and I do believe it was against the Seahawks at home. Purdy rolls out to the left, has to flip around, roll back out to the right. He does the little, like the swim move with the ball, steps back, and then throws a strike. Maybe it was against the Cardinals. I swear it was a divisional opponent. Throws a strike to Brandon Ayuk in the back right corner of the end zone. Beautiful. Drops it. Ayuk has a dropping problem, and it pisses me off, to be perfectly honest. Back to Debo. Debo being a part of our offense opens so much up because you got to respect him in the run game, as a runner, as a blocker, as a decoy, as a pass catcher. You don't know what's about to happen, but him being in there unlocks so much. Thank God he comes back after the bye. We need Debo, and we really need Steve Wilkes to be better and dial up better plays for our defense, because right now he sucks. I miss D'Amico Ryans. I miss Robert Saleh. I don't know what's happening with this defensive play calling, but it has to calm the heck down. We've lost 3 in a row. We don't deserve to be in Super Bowl talks right now, even though we're still probably the second best team in the NFC. Probably, because the NFC is pretty weak. I know people are going to be trying to put the Cowboys up there back again because they just whooped the Rams today. without Matthew Stafford for the most part, but whatever. But there's problems going down here right now, and we're about to head into a very tough stretch this season. We thankfully are in a bye, and we're going into the trade deadline this Tuesday. So when we come back from the bye, we have Jacksonville, the Buccaneers, and then Seattle, and Philly, and then Seattle again. What a stretch of games. What a stretch of games. What a 5-game stretch that could make or break our entire season. And we really can't afford to lose any of those games. Maybe one. Maybe. But which one? We can't afford to lose either Seattle games, because Seattle's nipping right on our heels. They lost today, or Seattle won. Seattle beat the Browns. We couldn't do it. Seattle did. It was at Seattle, but still Seattle did it. So Seattle's right there with us. And if we want to get home field in NFC Championship and all this stuff, we have to beat Philly. Philly's games are pretty ugly, but they're finding ways to win. Our games are looking pretty ugly, and we're finding ways to lose. We gave up 14 points in the fourth quarter. Can't have that. Steve freaking Wilkes. George Kittle had 9 catches for 149 yards today. Let's not forget that. And even in the midst of the interceptions that Brock Purdy threw, he still threw for 365 yards. 365 yards on 31 attempts. Had a solid day, minus a few throws. We just need some things to start going our way, or all these stats that are racking up are going to be absolutely meaningless. Armstead had a couple of sacks. Bosa had a ton of pressures. Isaiah Oliver, Fred Warner, and Hufanga all had 10 tackles. Bosa actually had half a sack, so that's cool. Trying to find some happy thoughts here as I look at these stats and stuff and remember. But nevertheless, I'm done with this game. On to the bye week. If anything happens with the trade deadline, I'll probably post something if it's any significance. If Randy Gregory played this game, I don't know. So hopefully maybe we can go get a pass rusher that's going to make a difference when we need it to actually happen. I know Brian Burns is available, apparently, if the price is right. As is Chase Young, Montez Sweat. I don't really think an edge rusher would be the goal in all this. If we could somehow obtain Patrick Surtain, that would be amazing, because I just don't trust Isaiah Oliver at the end of the day in coverage. He's a good tackler. He's a very good tackler. But any passes outside of 10, 15-yard range, I just don't trust it. But that's that, y'all. This game's done. We're 5-3. I don't even know how to end this video. I'll talk to you soon.